Ready. Welcome, everyone. I think I haven't seen him, but a few meetings ago, open shop, Carl wants to join, but didn't have money, was going to bring it to an open shop, but I haven't seen him yet. So he is a new member once he sends you the money. Okay. So that's one person. John, are you a member? I apologize. I just don't remember everything.
Okay. It only took 2 years to get his email correct.
Was that the one that had an email?
He's the one.
That's me. Which side of the equation got the email wrong? Your side or
He
our
had
side?
a block that it bounced back all the time. It wouldn't be accepted.
It's a company email.
Yeah,
Oh, so you can't get out.
I can't take credit for that.
yeah. But it all works now because he's here.
So, and welcome to everybody on Zoom. We want to run through the treasurer's report and then some priority business so we can get to John's demo. So, Rick, treasurer's report.
All right. We started last month. We had about 3784 or something like that, or right around 4,000. Then we had ICO and Trent Bosch that came out and stuff for the Japanese lathe. So right now we're sitting right around 2,672.
Okay.
You're coming into due season too.
Yeah, we are. So we'll get some replenishment, hopefully. December, we're going to be electing new officers for the vice president and for the treasurer. So in November, please be prepared to nominate some folks for those two positions. Haven't talked to Rick yet to figure out if he wants to stay on. He sort of gave me the head nod, so I presume his hat is in the ring. I also,
Unless somebody really wants to do it.
Yeah, I hear you.
So I want to thank Doug Reeser, who was our liaison with the Mid-Atlantic Woodturner Symposium folks, Ron Sheehan and our other members that assisted with the symposium. As Rick Baker, the president, said that they could not do the symposium, they cannot conduct it without everybody's help. So on behalf of the club, thanks everybody who contributed. Also, I want to thank Angelo for bringing Eko Tanaka here from Japan, and to our club, and to Barry, who I don't mind. He won't be here. Who made the lathe and then tweaked the lathe multiple times. We enjoyed watching the lathe take shape here, as well as Eko and her very informative and enjoyable presentations at the symposium. So thank you, Angelo, for getting that ball rolling. And Doug, I know you were involved with that whole thing too, so thank you both. I thought it was an exceptional event, and her presentations were really top-notch. Did you want to say something?
No,
Oh.
I just saw somebody in the front saying hello, and I just waved back.
I didn't do anything.
I know, your wife did.
So, with that, John is going to do the demonstration tonight. It's been a while since John's been here, so John, I'm happy to see you here. And I know you put a lot of time into the demonstration, but not nearly as much as you put into these magnet boxes. So,
Yeah, I've been in my rabbit hole for 10 years.
yeah, so I'm going to turn this over to you,
All right.
okay?
I just want to suggest to you guys in the back, you're going to miss a whole lot of interesting detail if you stay way down that far away. There's lots of chairs up front.
You don't fight.
I've been lost in this rabbit hole of using magnets to close boxes for at least 10 years. And I'm going to give you a tour of where I am at right now through a slideshow with pauses for 4 short demos that I think are more generally applicable to turning, stuff I've learned in this process, but others will find useful, and several useful jigs as well. Let me see, what do I want to say here? We're doing this with a slightly experimental format, and I'm trying to make it's difficult to get it all working correctly because a little A lot of ways to get it wrong. All right, that gets rid of the sidebar. So I make what I'm calling long grain hidden magnet boxes. Boxes like this, boxes like this. If you look at the outside, it's just a box, but it's held shut with magnets. And they show inside the lid and they show here, but they don't, on some they show inside the box as well, and others they don't. And I've worked for quite a while to get this right. And I've gone through a lot of, just a second, I'm worrying about this video. Yeah, okay. And anyway, this is where I'm at with it. So I'm going to pass these two around as examples of this is what we're talking about. This is what we're going to make tonight. You're going to do a lot of hopping up and down because I'm going to be doing a lot of this. These are made of colorful hardwoods. They've got to be dry, no perfect blanks, cracks, and splits. The magnets are going to just get hung up in there. It's not going to work. So this is a place where you use good wood. And pretty often the wood that you buy at Groff and Groff that's all taped up in wax is not dry. And when you get into it and find that out, I have a pause place where I allow it to dry, usually. Most of the wood I'm using now was put up 2 years ago. These are long grain boxes, they're more stable. The first is boxes that are face grain or like bowl orientation. They'll move around a bunch and bind. These are a lot less likely to bind. There still has to be, these are not suction fit. These are magnet fit, so they're loose. What I like about them, about magnet boxes, is they close down with a clack. And they stay closed. You get them done right, they'll stay closed in your luggage. But let's see, the end grain top can be showy or inlaid. What I'm currently doing now is what I call radial magnets. I'm sorry, I got to be very aware of this little screen. Radial magnets with two-piece lids is what gets us to the no visible magnets on the outside. And the blanks I'm using range in size from 3 by 6, 3 by 3 by 6 to 4 by 4 by 8, things in that range. The gimmick here is the flanged ring conceals the magnets, and I came up on this after the Mid-Atlantic last year when Thomas and Michael Keyes said, you can get rid of these magnets on the outside. So I figured out ways of hiding the magnets behind sleeves of wood, and I'll pass this one around in a minute. And then I figured out flange magnets, and you can see it there in the diagram. I set out to draw all the ways I could figure out how to conceal the magnet, and this is where I got to. There's a lid cap that fits over a flanged ring which carries the magnets. It's best for small jars and pill boxes. The flange strengthens the magnet ring, and it hides and the bead hides the glue lines. The lid and box parts overlap, so with the flanged ring and the parting cuts, you're going to lose about 2 to 2.5 inches of the blank length. If you start out with a 6-inch blank, you end up with about a 4-inch tall box. How I got here, I used to make little dipsy boxes like those over there. Around 2015, I was working 14 maybe, I was working part-time for the AAW, and Mike Peace, I got to edit an article by Mike Peace about a threading jig he had made, and I was looking for a way to close boxes, so I made the jig and I edited the article. The goddamn thing didn't work. So I've got those threading tools, chasing tools, and they work fine, but I don't work. I can't make those work either. So I'm looking for a way to make boxes close. And I remember when I was a kid, I used to have, these ring magnets and sit them on a pencil and they'd bounce up and down like this. And I just made this toy the other day using these neodymium ring magnets. And it just shows you the kind of oomph you can get out of these things. Now, the poor people in video aren't seeing this at all. There they are. Yeah. So there's an awful lot of power in these magnets. They're very in the little ones, and I'll pass around little ones in a little while. But anyway, I'm going to leave this stuff up here. You can look at it at the break or after. Around about 2017 or 16, I started figuring out how I could hide the magnets. When they're exposed, if they're exposed, sunk underneath the wood, they gather schmutz. If you bring them proud of the wood and then you try and sand them down, they do not sand down. They're a really hard coating. And then if they're proud of the wood and they bang against other magnets, they're brittle and they shatter. And when they shatter, I've got a sample here someplace. It'll turn up. When it turns up, I'll pass it around. When they shatter bad. that sample, annoying me. Well, it'll turn up. So you want to have so axial magnets, the way I was doing it, the best I could get is like this. This is a 3-part blank. And I'll pass this one around, and that one there is the same, and that one there is the same. For these, you make a body blank, a lid blank.
Can you hold that down, John?
Yeah,
Thank you.
My place. And a center blank that contains the magnets. You install the magnets, and then split the blank in between the magnets you've installed in both parts of the center blank. And that gets you magnets that are hidden inside the wood here and hidden inside the wood here. And they're pulling down like this. So this is a pretty good way of, this is what turned out to be a pretty successful way of doing it up to a point. The limitation with this method, 2 limitations. One is the box is clunky. You got to have wood around the magnet, so you're going to get a clunky box. And the other is, it is very, very easy to turn right through the wood into the magnets. And that happens about 1 in 3, and by the time you've done that, you're 2 or 3 hours in. So it's not an efficient way to make magnet boxes. So I went looking for another way to do it, and I stumbled into making them with radial magnets. So the magnets are, where am I in them? There. So the magnets are oriented this way rather than this way. And so that allows the lid to, this one's tight because it's catalogs and it was wet. When they're radial, you use the property of them that wants to center. They want a group of them standing in one place. Where are they? I'm sorry, it's just a little bit discombobulated here. There's so much stuff. Yeah. They want to make a column like that. They want to center. They don't want to. They will not stack up. They will not stack up off center. They center tight. So I wanted to use that property as well as the property that has them sucked together. So I got into making. I persuaded myself I can make them with exposed magnets, and they'll be decorative, and it'll be all right, and it's fine, and it is, and it's a style to do. And I've made quite a lot of these over time. And then I got into making them with a sleeve like this one, a sleeve that covers the magnets, but you can't hide that glue line. I'm sorry, I'm really having trouble with this. Yeah. The sleeve covers the magnets, but you can't hide that glue line. So I didn't like that either. And that's how I got to the flange ring that conceals the magnets. I'm going to send some of these around too. Okay, now the problem with this is how do you, I'm going to send magnets around a little while later. The problem with something like this is you figure out you want to do that. You've never seen one before, and the flanges inside. How are you going to design that? How are you going to find? How do you know how big to make anything? And I've figured out a number of ways of doing that, and I'm going to do demo 1 here is going to be a drawing demo. So let's turn the share off. Just a second. Okay, I'm going to stop the share.
Just drop that anywhere.
So I want to have this camera, and I want to have it retreated a bit. I want to see the drawing pad. That's good. That's good. Okay. But now I'm a little bit, I'm also discombobulated, but I'm going to do my best here. Okay. What I always do with something like this, if I have the block of wood, I put the block of wood down on the drawing pad and I draw around the block of wood. in on the floor every time. So once I've drawn around the block of wood, I can't, whatever I'm gonna make, I can make inside that block. I'm not gonna exceed that block of wood. If I don't have the block of wood, but I know I'm gonna I wanna work or experiment with a particular size, like 3x6, because I get a lot of that, I use a template. I got a 3x6 template. So I can draw around that equally well. If I want to make it 7 or 8, I can just extend the template down the pad, and I can mark a center line, because I have the template marked with the center line. And people, I don't know why, people don't usually use templates for this kind of thing. We use these kind of templates all the time. And I use these kind of templates all the time. This is a whole set of templates for the size of things that I make. And the other thing you can do with templates is not only can you draw around it, so now you know what size your project's going to be, you can draw around the template on the block of wood. This is a piece of ash, and the grain goes all kind of wee-wah here. So if I want to get a block out of this, these work best when the grain is straight. I want to get a straight grain block. I can set my template on here and draw around it. And now out of this gnarly chunk of ash, I can go to the bandsaw and get myself a block, a straight grain block. So that's why and how I use templates. So now I want to draw a box. And, you know, I can't draw. And I know you guys are all going to tell me you can't draw either. But I can turn. So I can go to the lathe and I can make a shape that I want to make. I don't have to draw this. I can make it a lot better with turning tools than I can possibly draw it. I'm using wood for these I'm not going to make anything out of. It's crappy wood. It's wood that's got splits. It's wood that's got wormholes or whatever. So I'm not using my good wood, and it's cheap. I can make one of these in about 10 minutes. I've probably made about 30 of them over the years in one form or another. I can really explore. We lost my drawing pad. What do we got going on? Yeah.
Sorry, you were holding the piece out.
Yeah, I'm going to try and stay down here right now. So I can really explore shapes with this, with these things. So now I want to draw this thing. I want to draw this one. Yeah, I want to draw this thing. So first I draw my chucking tenon. I don't want to get messed up in there. And I draw my center line because I only want to work on one side of the center line. And what I know is this is the lid cap, and this is the flange piece, and this is the block's body. So I can use a light, one way to do it. I can come along up to the thing and look at it, and I can see that flange ring is that big. I'm going to make a story stick out of this, so there's my flange ring right there. So once I've got that, I can mark that point, and I've got a line here. Within that line, I can position this piece of wood, this thing I made, and I can draw the shadow. So I can get pretty close there. And then I can draw the bottom half of it down here on the block. I don't like where the light is shining it. I want it to come up a bit more like that. So now from here, I can draw down here like this. And there I've got that part, and I know I've got some kind of a neck inside there, and I know I've got a foot there. So now I'm starting to see what happens here. I know that the lid is going to have a cap thing like that, and I'm sneaking up on the flanged ring. Now in here I can figure out the flanged ring. I've got a flange like that, and I've got a ring that's going to fit inside here like that. So now I can draw the flanged ring. And I can take dimensions right off the drawing, right off the piece of paper. And then, the next guy who comes along here is going to tell me, well, I can't draw that either. Well, you can turn and you can bandsaw. So what I often do is turn the thing I want to make, and I just bandsaw it in half. Don't bandsaw it this way, you'll catch the blade, stand it up, use the fence, bandsaw it straight. Now, with that, I don't have to do any guessing. I can draw exactly around the thing that I made. And working like that, I can get a rather close drawing of what I'm trying to make. And that will end up, after I've done it a couple of times, because it's like turning, you're not going to do it all you're not going to get where you're trying to go in one lot. You're going to have to do it a few times. And I'll ultimately get to a drawing that looks like this. And it gives me the dimensions of the lid cap, the dimensions of the flanged ring, the general shape of the bottom of the body of the box. The key dimension here is this one here. How deep do I turn inside the lid? And then then that's the same dimension has to fit here on the flange. So if I make this 5/8, then this is 5/8. And if I want this to be a quarter, then this is going to have to be a 7/8 inch piece. If the flange is 7/8, then this has to be 7/8 or less. So now I know those key dimensions that I didn't have any information about before. I hadn't from not having made the box before. And you can get all the way. You can get all the way to a very exacting drawing that gives you full detail inside a blank that you can't see inside, working with a stick and a template and a French curve. You can use a French curve if you don't want to trace around the box. If you don't want to saw it in half, you can find the curves you want on the French curve and trace around them. So that's drawing lesson number 1. Questions, comments, arguments with me? Okay. Pin cap going.
John, there's a question in the back.
Yeah.
Have you tried to create rings so that the magnet is completely hidden, like a masking ring, like almost a veneerish?
Yeah, you wind up with too much wood in front of the magnet. You wind up, you can stand a certain amount of distance.
No matter how thick it is, it's still.
Yeah, but once you wind up with trying to have a shield on one side and a shield on the other side, so the magnet is totally buried, you probably don't have enough grab. That's why with the ones with in this orientation, I was forever shaving down closer to the magnets to get the box to work right. And that's why you can see the shadows of the magnets here. The magnets are very close to the surface. Now, magnets consider wood and air the same. They don't care.
Right.
But that's, nevertheless, if you try and get the magnet completely surrounded, you will wind up with a loosely grabbing box. And one of the things I'm after is boxes that'll stay shut in your bag or your pocket for your Tic Tacs or your daily meds or whatever, or in your luggage. So I don't want a box that comes open with a mere look. I want to intentionally open it, and I want to intentionally close it.
John, I assume that you're giving up matched grain because of taking that extra ring out.
Yeah, the ring, as you'll see if you look at some of these closely, the matched ring conceals a lot. The grain can be quite discontinuous from here to here, and it'll look like it's continuing right through the matched ring. What view am I in? So the ring is deliberately about 3/16 or 1/4 of an inch thick, for the purpose of allowing the grain to seem as if it's totally continuous when really it's not, because I've lost an inch of it out of there. that I'm gonna be making, these three parts. So this part is lost from the, this amount is lost from the grain match. Inevitable. Okay, once I have a drawing, I go to the lathe. I'm going to go back to the share. Help me out.
John, is it necessary to take the middle part out of the middle? I mean, can you take the middle part out of the top?
You can, but it doesn't work as well. And I'll get to why that is in a minute. Okay, the reason you wouldn't do that, the reason I wouldn't do that anyway, is that has me making the flanged ring before I make the lid. And so now I'm trying to fit, I'm trying to make a fit. If I make the flanged ring first this way, and then the lid, so I've got this ring. Where are we looking at? Oh, I've got to do over here now. Okay. So if I make the flanged ring first over here, then I have to make this fit this in here. So not only do I have to get it to be straight, I have to get it to be the same dimension. It's quite difficult. If I make the lid first, I can get it straight. I don't have to be exact for this. A 3/16, a quarter, a little thicker, it'll all be fine. I'm going to turn a lot of it away anyway. And then I can make this, since I'm working on the outside of the block, I can make the straightness and the dimension of it much more easily. Because I can get at it. I'm not working up inside a hole. So that's the reason I wouldn't do it this way. Although I have done it that way, and this is how I know this. Okay, so now I want to turn a cylinder around and straight and smooth. And I now have, if I've spent a little time with my drawing and my templates and my model blocks, I know what the dimensions are, and I can lay out the ring, the lid, the flange ring, and the box body. And I also must, on the blank, have a witness triangle. You seeing this? I mark a long triangle so I can get the grain back the way it was when it was straight. And it doesn't mean it's always going to fit that way because there's an inch of wood out of there. But that gets me to orient the way it was. And it also gives me a straight line up the block that I can line up with the number one jaw in my chuck, which gives me a chance of getting the piece in and out of the chuck the same way 2 times in a row, which otherwise is by no means guaranteed and by no means easy.
Hey John, just for clarification, why do you call that a triangle? Is that because of the shape of the slot? Or is there a triangle involved somewhere?
I'm drawing a line and then I'm drawing 2 lines at an angle.
Oh.
Let's go back.
Maybe the overhead. Can you show it on the overhead?
Yes, there's my pin lead.
You don't have to stop the share.
Do I have to stop the share?
Yep.
Okay, I go escape, and then I get a mouse back. Stopping the share is tedious. Yeah. Now we can look down here again for a sec. If I have a blank, if this represents my blank, I'm going to draw that witness triangle. I'm going to draw one line straight down the wood, and I will probably choose the high point of the grain to do it. So a spot on the grain where I can get back to it even if I lose that triangle. I did not in this case, but I ordinarily would. I would choose that location right there because I can get back there even if I inadvertently turn that line away, which I'm quite likely to do. So I draw that line, and then I draw 2 lines at an angle. That's why I call it a triangle.
And what does that do for you compared to just a line? How come you have to have that triangle there, John?
It just makes it a whole lot less confusing.
Okay.
And you get in situations with this where, does this go this way, does this go this way?
Right.
And and it just makes it guaranteed. Also, if you don't have that line, if if you don't have it, and then you go to line up this line with the number one jaw of the chuck, you don't know which line you're working with, especially with a small
Right.
piece like this. So I want to make sure I'm totally on that, so that's why I draw it that way. I'm going to go back to the share for a minute. Sorry this is tedious. And then once I've got this, I'm going to turn this thing, and I'm going to turn it in order. I'm going to chuck this in. I'm going to part the lid off. I'm going to hollow the lid and leave a wall of 3/16 to a quarter thick. I'm going to fit the outside of the flange ring. I've got the lid on the ground now. I've got this end of the chuck. So I haven't parted this off yet. I'm going to shape this and fit the outside of the ring fit the outside of the ring into the lid. I'm going to hollow the ring out and part that off, and then I'm going to fit the box body to the inside of the lid of the ring. Finally, I'm going to hollow out the box body. The tools I'm going to use are your standard kit of tools. I use this gouge a lot. We seeing it? Yeah.
Yep.
This is, I don't know if this is a spindle gouge or a bull gouge. It's a half an inch wide. I keep it very sharp. I grind the heel off. Anyway, I use this gouge for almost everything. I use a skew at 75 degrees. I'm pretty particular about that.
There's a straight grind on the skew, John?
Yes. There's a parting tool. And I use a spindle roughing gouge. And again, these are fairly long grinds. These are not, these tools are sharp. And I use a hook tool, this guy. I use this one quite a bit to hollow out inside. And then I have a bunch of other things I use to detail the boxes, but I also use this one a lot to hollow out inside. This is one I bought and made the handle for. I'll show you some other tools in a minute. A dial caliper made of plastic is essential to work with magnets. One of the things you have to do is, it's very easy to get the wrong size drill bit or to not be sure about what the diameter or the length of the magnet is. And if you're measuring it with a steel rule, the magnet's going to stick to the ruler. So I use a dial caliper made of plastic, and it reads off in hundredths and in 64ths, and I can get a really good measurement with this thing. And it also measures the depth of holes, which becomes important. I also use a lot of little straight edges, which I've gotten over here. Straight edge like this is very important. And an inside caliper is, between the straight edge and the inside caliper, you can tell whether it's straight and parallel or not. We'll get to that in a minute. I also use a lot of these little negative break scrapers. These are Boxmaster tools, or this one's a Boxmaster. A sharp round and a shallower round on it. This is also a Boxmaster. It had one end was straight. This is the end I want. I made the handle for this, and then I made, there's a righty and a lefty. You get in situations where you need the lefty. So I made this one using this kind of stuff. This is tool steel that I buy from Amazon. You can get it from any of the industrial suppliers. Comes often wrapped in wax paper like this. This is almost a quarter thick and a little over a half wide, and they're all typically 8 inches long. So you can grind an awful lot of little scrapers out of these. You get 3 or 4 bars of this for 10 or 12 bucks. High speed steel, works great. And then handles are easy to make. I have made a lot of these. This is a 3-part handle. The middle piece is the thickness of the blade, so you assemble it and turn it and glue the blade in. But you can also just make a round hole and jam the blade in there and with a couple of half dowels or some epoxy. I won't send any of those around yet. Okay, so you're hollowing the lid. Get that blank again. This one. So I'm going to hollow the lid to its depth of about 5/8, maybe 3/4 in that neighborhood. Wall thickness of 3/16 to 1/4. I'm going to waste the inside of it with a spindle gouge. Now you can see all of this in the video I gave. I gave this demo in May of 23, and it's on the club site. And we did all this on the lathe, so I'm not going to do it here tonight. I use this gouge and I hollow this out very, very quickly and easily. I use this scraper to finish up the inside here. This scraper has a slightly round end. It's a negative double, what do they call them? Negative rake scraper. It has a safe edge over here. This edge is not going to cut the wood. So I can get right in the corner there with this scraper and be working on this surface without mucking up my straight and square and parallel face. And you finally wind up running the lathe this way and then running a little bit this way and then back this way, and you can pare this off so it needs almost no sanding. So this is how I make the lid. There's a Forstner bit hack. Sometimes it's quite difficult to know when this is straight and parallel. Now you know it's straight and parallel, all I know. This is what I'm going to work with in a little bit. I hold a ruler up in there and I sight the ruler against the lathe ways. Now I'm going to have to go. Yeah, I'm not going to do that right now. I'm going to stay in the chair for a minute. I sight the ruler against the lathe ways, and I can tell when that's straight and parallel in there. And I'll show you that in a minute so you see it on the screen. And you can also find out about straight and parallel using inside calipers. And this is Raffin's method. Get the caliper so it just fits down inside there at the. You can get the caliper so it just barely touches down inside, and when you pull it up, it should also just barely touch. And if the drag on the caliper changes, then the slope of the box is also changing. So that's making the lid. The Forstner bit hack is. It's not always easy to get that. It might be me one day, I'm not up to it. It might be the wood is crazy. It might be, it's just, I don't know. So I can rough it out with a gouge to within an eighth of an inch. And then I can take a big Forstner bit. I cannot, down on the bottom there, I cannot just take a big Forstner bit and jam it in here. I'm going to throw the piece of wood back on my face, sure as hell. With some woods it'll work, most woods it will not. The usual way of using a Forstner bit is you bore with a smaller bit and a bigger bit and a bigger bit and a bigger bit until you get there. But you don't have to do it that way. You can hollow this out most of the way with the gouge until you're within an eighth of an inch or so of the line. And then it's child's play for the Forstner bit. But if you're going to do it that way, you want to leave this a little long because it's going to be ragged at the entry. It'll be ragged until it gets past the teeth and is fully entered. And once it's fully entered, it'll cut that straight and parallel, and it'll leave a nasty dimple in the bottom as well. And it doesn't matter if it's not the right size, because once I have it straight, it's quite easy to make it bigger, and it's quite easy to make it deeper. What's not easy is to get it parallel in the first place. Make sense?
When you say make it bigger, you use a bigger Forstner?
No, I go in with my turning tools, which is what I'm going to do in this next.
But then you still run the risk of going out of parallel, then, don't you?
It's quite easy to keep it in parallel once you have it in parallel, because you can sight against it and you can see what you're doing. You can see what you're shooting for, and you'll see that in a minute in the next stage here. Then you make the flange ring after that. So now I've got this made, and this is in the chuck. So I'm going to be fitting this to this. Is that right? Yeah. Turn this outside, so I want it to be a snug fit. I don't need a sucking fit, but I want a snug fit. There's no play in there. And while I've got these pieces in the lathe and these shoulders, or I've got them in a chuck, I'm gonna make this shoulder and this surface and this surface, whenever I can get at one of these surfaces, I'm gonna make it as clean and flat and straight as I can. Because I'm probably not gonna be able to get at it again. And if to get at it again is gonna be to put the piece back in the chuck and have it turn out, it's just, we're dealing with hundredths of an inch here. So I'm gonna make sure I do that. And I'm gonna do that, turn this thing to 3/16 or to a quarter wall thickness. And that's gonna govern how big a magnet I can use. And this is gonna govern the size of my bead, and I'm gonna part that off. And then I'm gonna fit the box tenon on the body of the box. Now I've got this piece in the lathe. I'm gonna make this outside tenon that'll fit on here, or that this will fit on. And that's what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna demo in a minute. And the way I'm gonna do it is I'm gonna get to a little wee cone down here that this will just fit over, and I can scribe a line and see exactly where it is, and then I can pare the wood away. And I'm gonna demo, that's what I'm gonna demo. That's gonna be one of your 2 actual turning demos tonight. So we're gonna do the demo of the fit now. I'm gonna stop the share again. Boy, this is complicated. Escape. Yes. Get my mouse back. Okay. I have to warn you, I'm not familiar with this lathe, and I'm not familiar with demonstrating either. I made this blank a while ago. This is bloodwood. This is the other part of it. Came off like this. This is going to be for us, not a sleeve box. This is going to be a box that has exposed magnets. It's going to be a box like this with exposed magnets, with dyed fill over the magnets. Anyway, I'm going to pass this around because this is what I'm going to make. So we're going to make the parts for that right now. So this is fine. It's perfectly straight here. I could have bored it. I could have done it with a. If I sight down there, I'm really very close to dead on parallel. It slopes in a little wee bit. But I want this wall here is almost 3/8 thick. I want that to be significantly thinner. So that's what I'm going to do to show you how this is done. How do I turn this on? Tool rest. This will turn on. Sorry, that was me. Okay. You gonna try to get that overhead or on this camera here? I don't know. Okay.
One or two. So it gets.
You're gonna have to call it, figure it out. So what I'm trying to do here now is just make this narrower. So I'm going to use this Boxmaster tool, and because I'm starting with a straight line here, I can see what I'm going to do, and I'm going to line myself up, the edge of this thing up with the lathe ways. So, and on my own lathe at home, I'm pretty good at that. I'm going to be on center, and I'm going to go, and I can see that it's no longer round. I'm going to make it round, right there. And then I'm just going to go key here is these tools, this is less than 90 degrees. This is about 80 degrees, 85 degrees. If it's 90 degrees or more than 90 degrees, then I'm going to wind up digging this heel into the lid of the box. I'm going to just a scar I'll never get rid of. But when I work like this, this heel is not going to touch inside the box unless I swing my hand way over to do it. And I may do that, but right now I'm not. So I'm just going to make a last little wheel here. And my eye says that's clean. And my ruler says that it is parallel to the lathe ways, because I followed the slope I had in there. Now, if I want to make this box bottom a little deeper, I don't, so I'm not going to do that. But if I did, I would be in here with this guy. This is almost straight with a safe edge. And this, again, a negative rate scraper. The beauty of the negative rate scraper for me is I can be working dead level right at the tool, off the tool rest. I don't have to tip it up, I don't have to tip it down. I get my best cut if the cutting edge is right dead on the middle when the handle is level. And I got some scuff in there, so I'm going to see if I can get rid of some of that. That's better. And if I wanted to clean it up a little more, I can sand that now at 240 or 320. But if I wanted to clean that up a little more, how do I reverse this thing?
Now, this, turn it the other way.
Okay.
I'll just warn you. That's okay, it'll do it.
Okay. I'm not going to use the grub screw because I'm not going to be taking off any material. All I'm wanting to do is get the little grain feather thingies that have been pushed up one way and nip them off the other way. So I'm just going to be able to come in here really, really gently like that, and just slide across and barely touch the wood. And that will get me a very sandable surface inside there. Okay, so now with that, you have to make two fits like this in a box with a sleeve. So this is the method of making fits is well worth knowing. So that's why we're doing it. It's really weird to me too, stuff that is easy and fluent to do in my home lathe. I'm standing here fumbling around looking for parts and feeling like a moron. Okay, so this is the piece of wood that was parted off of this a couple of weeks ago.
Is it still reversed?
No,
Pardon? No.
it returns.
It returns, good. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is clean that surface off a little bit. For that I want the tool rest at 45 degrees, and I want it below center. So that I can go, it still says reverser selected.
You have to hit the,
Back. Okay. Now I can come in here with this gouge. I can clean that off. I've got a nice surface there.
Can you help me understand why 45 degrees for your tool rest?
Yeah. uh, this angle, I'm going to guide this bevel on the surface of the wood, right? So I want to be able to do that without contortion. So if I put the tool rest like this, to do that same thing, I'm way out over the tool rest. And then I put the tool rest square onto the work, I could do it, square onto the work. But I don't know, I'll just do it that way. Yeah. Do I press off the button or the emergency button? What do you usually use?
I usually use the off, just off to it.
Yeah.
If you hit the emergency button, you have to pull it back out.
Oh, okay, yeah. So this in here is, oh, it's 9/16, almost 5/8. So the shoulder here is going to be almost 5/8. There. And I want to know where that is, so. So I've got a line there. This is pretty much exactly a quarter. So I want to be in here pretty much exactly a quarter. But I want to be a little bit big so I can fit it. So I don't want to make my initial roughing cut to quite there. I want to make it less than a quarter. So that's more like 3/16, and this is a quarter, so I know for sure I'm not going to be able to, I'm not going to crowd the work.
John, it's fair to say that this is protecting for good, a good fitted lid for a box, no matter whether you're putting magnets in it or not.
That's exactly right. Or for anything else that you want to have fit. Yeah. And this comes up a lot in wood turning, this kind of problem, which is why I chose this to demo. This is this is a little out of sequence in that in the 3-part boxes, this is a 2-part, this is just a straight lid, but it's the same problem, you got to make it fit. So I'm usually going to start with a parting tool here. I'm just going to part down to that line. I'm just really getting rid of waste right now. Now down here, doesn't fit, so I'm good. My lathe turns on and off really easy, so now I'm going to make a slope here. I'm going to do it with the parting tool. And the cowboys will do this with the lathe turning, but I find that to be not a good idea. Okay, that fits on there. I can hold it up there, turn it. I can see a scuff mark there. And that scuff mark is where it's going to fit. That tells me how much wood I have to remove. And I can either carry on with the parting tool, or I'll go over to this skew and just feel in with the skew. Still big, which is good. And And now I'm going to use the lathe way there, where I can see that line, and my skew. I'm going to line that up so I've got the blade is so now I'm parallel. And then come in here and get rid of some wood. And now I'm fitting to there. So I can see that I'm only about, not very far on. And I've got I can see looking down here that I've got quite a lot of slope there yet. So I'm going to get rid of that and go for it now. I can still see some slope there. I'm still big. I'm going to fool around like this until I get it right. The beauty of this is it helps to have this be very close because this is going to end up in a 3-part box being glued here. But it doesn't have to be really exact because I'm going to glue it with epoxy or tight bond, which are gap fillers. That's going to do it. Not quite. I probably overshot here because I'm getting impatient. It's going to be the story of my life. Okay, that goes on. And that's the fit I want. And it's the length fit. I don't know if it's exact or not yet, but it doesn't matter right now. That fits pretty good. It does matter actually. But what I would do for that is, first of all, I want to clean this shoulder off, which I'm going to do with how am I putting these things? Same tool I used before. I'm eyeballing rectangularity, and but I'm also going to put the ruler up to it, and I see it's quite dished. And now it's not quite dished. It's still a little bit dished. I'm okay with that. Because I'm going to glue, this is going to end up being glued down on there. I can also verify that this is 32nd under 5/8, and so is this. So that tells me that this and this are going to contact here and here pretty close. And that's what I'm looking for. I've got my triangle on here so I can line it up again. There. That's your fit demo. apart, send them around. You get to on your own lathe with your own tools at home, so you can do that pretty fast. Where are we on time now? 8:01. How long can I go?
8:01. Yeah.
Can I keep going?
Yeah.
Okay. I want to share the screen again. Okay. Okay, and then finally, at that point, I can hollow out the box body, which I'm not going to demo. But I can send around one. There's another one to send around. This one is done with the box body hollowed out. And to get to here from a lump of wood is probably a fat hour. Okay, magnets. We already talked about we're using radial magnets versus axial magnets in the box. Where are you going to use, when I get back to the drawing pad, I'm going to stay with the slides for a minute. This is a magnet drawing template, inside and outside. Magnet drawing template, inside and outside. So as you can see on the drawing pad, I can draw the different conditions of how the magnets are going to be and investigate how north and south poles are going to operate in the box that I'm going to make before I glue anything together. Now, if I only use one pair of magnets up at the top here, it's a north and a south, there's not going to be enough, it's going to grab, but it's probably not going to hold real tight because it's only grabbing on one corner. And I've seen a lot of boxes like that, and I've made a lot. And there's situations where that's the right thing to do. If you're going to have two magnets, you have two choices. You can have, where's my prop? You can have north, 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 south, south, south. You can have north, 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 south, north all around one, and south, south, south all around the other, and it'll grab tight no matter where it fits. But if you go north, south, north, north, south, south, then it'll grab at 0 and repel at 180 degrees. And if you go north, north, south, south, it'll grab at 0 and 180 degrees. So there's 3 ways you can get it to grab with 2 pairs of magnets. And you can investigate those pretty easily, like I say, with the ring. You draw the ring, you make, do I have to do it? You can see them here. You mark them north and south how you want them. You mark whether they're going to repel with a plus or attract with a plus or repel with a negative. And then what happens when you rotate the piece 180 degrees or 45 degrees or whatever pertains to the thing you're working with. 4 pairs of magnets, you get a lot of different situations, and these drawings kind of explore that. And in some of these, I did have this set up so I could show you the differences. There have been quite a few 4-magnet boxes go out here. This little box has 3 pairs. This little box has 3 pairs. This little box has 8 pairs. This little box has 8 pairs. This will stay shut no matter what. 3 pairs, it stays shut, but it's not going to stay shut no matter what. So send those around. A lot of the ones that have already gone around, the most common thing I do is 4 pairs. So a lot of these, send this around. This is 4 pairs. And so and this is 4 pairs.
Does the curvature, it's perfect, but does the arc of the piece make a difference? wider your radius or your circumference, or the larger your circumference, the closer to flat the magnet is going to be on the surface. So the more
I haven't noticed any difference in that way.
it's not a contact.
I have not, yeah, I've not seen that.
Can I ask you another question? Maybe you know this, maybe someone else knows this about magnetism. If you take those magnets, you're using those little 1/16ths or 1/8.
Yeah, I'm gonna send them around in a minute.
If you stack more than 1 deep, does the magnetism, is it stronger?
Yes, it's basically the strength of the magnet has to do with the mass of the magnet, or the volume of the magnet. So if you stack them, you basically just bought yourself a longer magnet. You probably paid more for it than you would have if you just bought a longer one in the first place. In other words, stacking 2/4 inches to make a 1/2 inch is probably going to cost you 75 cents, and just buying a 1/2 inch in the first place is probably going to cost you 45 cents.
So if you were really concerned about a box not being able to be opened unless it was twisted, say something in your pocket that had, I don't know, bison in it or something, you could stack magnets, make the wall a little thicker, and make a more secure box.
More magnets is generally the better way. You know, that's why I'm sending the 8 magnets around. 8 magnets, it's not going to come apart in your pocket. And most of the magnets I use, and this is where they're going to come around now if I can find them again.
But I guess what I'm asking is, I was alluding to a completely hidden magnet which would require a veneer that you said you lose magnetism if you stack the magnets radially, and then you had a veneer that totally hid the magnets. Would you get a holding power?
Yeah, you would. Yeah, you would, absolutely.
But I think, John, what Thomas is asking is, if you had 8 magnets, would you put 8 around the outside, or would you stack them 2 each? I think you put 8.
8 and 8.
8 and 8 separate.
Yeah, yeah.
Stack them two each time. You'll follow my drift.
Stacking them, I've done that, but it doesn't help you.
Doesn't add a significant amount
No,
of magnets.
you can buy magnets.
Yeah,
I'm gonna,
what I was after was, some magnets are more magnetic than other magnets.
okay, well, there's more to say about that.
Okay.
Old style ferrite magnets, like we saw in speakers and all that, are not really very strong, and they're very crumbly as well. These are crumbly the same way inside, but they have this hard coating on the outside. They come in 3 grades. N52 and N53 are what I have easy access to. N53 are stronger than N52, and you can't tell them from the outside, but they cost a little more. There's another grade that's a samarium magnet that's good for high temperature applications. These will suffer in over 200 degrees. So, you know, if you're in a situation where they have to go in an oven, these are not the magnets to use. But there are magnets you can get that are for industrial applications that will handle high heat, and you can buy those, and they're several times more expensive. I'm going to send around these magnets. There are 3/16 by 3/16 and 3/16 by 1/8, which is what I most commonly use. And then just for comparison, some 1/4 inch magnets in these stacks. And there's 2 stacks. So
Are these the same kinds? In other words, we don't want to mix these two
you
up.
can mix them, it doesn't matter. Just
Okay.
send them one way, you know. Yeah, well, they're two different sets. They're both the same.
Oh.
Yeah, give him, yeah, okay, well,
Now we have one set.
now you have one set, yeah.
Now we have 2.
Now you have 2. This is how I keep them.
Make sure they don't fall.
Like a city.
Yeah, a little city of magnets parked on a bracket that came off of something. And what I was fishing for is these. This is what they're like inside. Send that around too. These sort of dudes. This is how I keep them. They're stacked like this on a metal bracket brace of all different sizes. And this is what they're like inside. These are some of those rings that broke apart. Okay, magnetic clearances. What exactly is going on here? The magnet sees wood the same as air. The magnet can't bang on the magnet. They're too hard to sand. You can't sand them. If they bang and they abrade, or more likely under contact, they shatter and they get like the ones that are coming around there. So the magnets in the ring, I can't really point at this, can I? No. The magnets in the ring, which is yellow here, I'll set those to the outside of the ring, so they're butting against the inside of the lin flash. That makes an index, and I'll make sure there's a space there that I'm going to fill. The magnets in the box body, the inner brown circle, I'm going to bore into it, set into a blind hole. So they also bottom out on the shoulder of that blind hole, and there's also a little bit of space there. I'm going to fill that space later on in this demo. And then I'm also going to have space between the box body and the composite lid. The magnets need more than a 32nd, maybe less than a 16th in the box before they're going to work. If you get them tighter than that, they hang up. And the lid doesn't snap down tight, and it just doesn't work right. So what I'm making, I'm heading for a final fit that is loose, but I'm starting with a tight fit so I can pare my way to it after I add glue, because I'm going to have glue built up above the surface. So that's the strategy here, and that's that's what I'm trying to. That's what I'm going to be trying to get to. We have to bore for magnets. I bore on the lathe. I like to bore on the lathe, and I have apparatus to do it. You can see one example of it down here. You bore through the ring first. Then you can trace the holes that the ring made on the box body, and you can see where those magnets are, and you want them offset so that the lid gets drawn down tight. So I offset them by 1 radius. So I draw my layout line at the base of that hole that I traced through the hole. I traced through the first set of bored holes. Now to do that, I have an apparatus that lets me drill horizontally in on my drill press, and it's pretty flaky, so I'm not liking it too much. I've recently acquired this little drill press that I can mount right on the lathe, and in fact I'm going to dedicate an older lathe just to this, and now I have complete control on it. This thing will go horizontal, it'll drill vertical, it plugs in, it's very accurate as opposed to all the other wiki-up things I've done. And I'm set up, I'm dedicating a machine station to boring these holes, because I make a lot of these magnets. Most of you aren't going to do that, but if you want to bore holes in the edges of workpieces and in the faces of workpieces, you need a way to do it, and this is where we're going to talk about jigs for a minute. The drill press V fixture, which is this, is the simplest solution to this problem. I'm going to turn this off now. How do I do that again? Yeah. So what camera am I on? Me. What? Okay, zoom in a bit. Yeah. So a way I can. This is a drill press V fixture. Everybody should have one of these for drilling into round things. You have to have a cylindrical workpiece. If the workpiece is not cylindrical, it wobbles around. But it sits on there, and I can bore straight down in there. If this is clamped to the drill press table, I can clamp this in there and bore straight in. And I can rotate it and bore straight in. And the way, when I make these jigs, this has a careful center line, and if I was doing it that way, the workpiece would also have a center line, and I would probably be working over here and bringing center line to center line and getting my boring. In fact, I found if I'm boring off the lathe, I also want to do layout off the lathe. If I'm working on the lathe, I'm going to lay it out on the lathe. I'm not going to lay it out at all. I'm going to use the lathe indexing wheel and the verticality of my apparatus to get the holes where I want them. But if I'm off the lathe, I'm going to lay out with this guy. I'm going to use one of these to find the centers. This is a center finder. Now I can draw a couple of diameters, and I can know where the center of things are. So if I need to move out here, I can get a diameter on here. Once I have a diameter, I can get a right angle diameter. And now I can locate the magnets really accurately, and I can bore them really where I want them using a drill press jig. Provided the body is cylindrical and accurate, the jig is clamped to the table, and the workpiece is clamped to the jig. If you hand hold here, you're going to get a hole the magnet doesn't fit in. You can guarantee it. The other jig, I want to show on this other jig. Yeah. That's in this other context. Let's see if I get there. I should have a printout of my slideshow because I forget what comes. Oh yeah, I know what comes next. The other jig that fits in here that I like to use, that I've found to be pretty useful, is an indexing wheel that, standard indexing wheel on the lathe gives you 24 holes. So you can do multiples or divisions of 24. You can do 8, you can do 6, you can do 4. You can't do 5, you can't do 10, you can't do 7. So I wanted to make a fixture that, a wheel, where I could do 10. I wanted 5 and 10. And I was at first going to make 60 holes. And some guys on the coffee hour said, "You're crazy, you want 10, make 10 holes." So I made, this goes on behind the chuck. And I wonder if it'll fit on this. I'm not going to take it off. It goes on behind the chuck. Then this piece on my lathe at home sits down between the lathe ways, and the indexing pin goes in here and in here, and I'm indexed. So you make the base, fits the lathe, piece of plywood, this block. It's going to be different for every lathe, right? So I can't really give you any more of a recipe than that. But I would not bore this hole in the block, and I would assemble all this, but I wouldn't bore the block yet. What I would do is bore this, mount it on here, and put the chuck on to hold it on, make the outside of it, turn an 8-inch circle, because that's how big my protractor is. Mark, because I've got the 24 index thing, a diameter and 2 diameters, so I can actually find center, protractor, and tape the protractor to the workpiece. I'm not going to hand hold it and try and get it back in the same place again in a minute, because I know I can't do that. But I do also know if I tape it to the workpiece, I can tape it down, I can have it be in the right place, and I can lay out my 10 holes. And the only way this is going to work is if these holes are on a circle. They can vary a little bit this way, but they can't vary this way, because I can't get the pin, it's not going to work. I'm not going to be able to index that anymore. So I use this jig. This is a right angle jig for the drill press. It's simply a right angle with a slot there for chip ejection, a diagonal line to help me index to. I've got my plywood disc, sit it in there.
Slide it, yes, slide it to the headstock. There you go.
You got it? Yeah. We need to see there, yeah. So now I've got my right angle jig with a diagonal line. I can plant the workpiece in here and rotate it to where I want to bore the hole. This is all clamped to the drill press table, remember? Now these holes are not going to vary radially. They might vary circumferentially, but they're not going to vary radially. And I can do that on the workpiece in some of these boxes with the old style of axial magnets versus radial magnets. I can bore those the same way off the lathe. So there's 3 jigs. There's this jig with the index pin. If you're using this, if you do make any of these jigs and you have a wheel like this on a lathe like this, if you're using the index part of the lathe, it's not going to let you switch on while you've got it pinned. But if you're using one of these and free rotating the lathe to get it to where you want it, it will let you switch it on too. So unplug the lathe to use one of these fixtures. Yeah. So with this behind the lathe, I can work around the workpiece. I can mark out 10 divisions, drill 10 holes. So those are your 3 jigs for the evening of general purpose. Questions on those? Comments?
John, I assume you're using Forstner bits
Where?
when you're drilling your holes.
I'm using brad point bits usually.
Oh,
This,
okay.
no,
I'm talking about on your box.
No, I'm not.
Oh, okay.
You say, weren't you here for the demo I just did? We're cutting them all with tools.
No, no, no.
For the
I
magnets,
meant the holes that the magnets go in.
No, I'm using a brad point bit for a through hole, and I'm using a standard industrial twist bit for a blind hole, because I want that shoulder. I have tried using, and remember, these are 3/16 bits, so you don't get a 3/16 inch Forstner bit, but you can get an end mill. But end mills, the end is not square. The end is, you get a little dimple in the middle. Now the magnet can rock in there. I want a positive location for that magnet.
When you're drilling a two-part box, you put the lid on the box and drill it all at once?
No, because I want them offset.
Okay.
I want that offset of the lids in the box, the magnets in the box body to be closer to the box body than the piece that's going to fit. I want it to pull the lid in. If I drill them straight through both parts at once, it's going to bounce around. Because I have not been able to, up to this point, clean up the bottom of this shoulder. I can't clean the bottom of the shoulder up until I get it glued up again. Because by the time this is parted off, remember? Now I've got a ring like this, and I'm going to stick it in the chuck. And maybe it's going to be accurate, maybe it's not. I'm not really going to know where that surface is until after I glue this together. Why is that pertinent? I forget.
Because you do it in sequence and you know what you're doing when you're doing
Yeah,
it in
and I need this to pull against the box body, so I need that offset between the magnets to do it. If I bore straight through and then I clean the surface off, then now I've got a space. Now the lid bounces around. And you might like that. I've made some boxes that do that. The lid bounces around. That's part of the fun of them. But I don't mostly like that. I want that clacking sound. I want the lid to go down with a snap. So I'm going to take the trouble I'm going to do it to offset the holes and not drill them both at once. Okay. What can go wrong? Two things go wrong when you're boring for magnets. One thing is you fail to take the plastic vernier caliper and measure the drill bit before you drill and measure the magnet and make sure that they're the same. And if you don't do that, you get a hole that is marginally too small for the magnets that you have. And in fact, they don't make a magnet to fit these holes. And if I make these holes, try and ream them out bigger, whatever I do, they're going to get sloppy. So that's a fail. The other fail is you don't count the right number of holes around the indexing ring and you get an extra hole. Or you get a hole in the wrong place. And you can fill it, but I usually say, I'm done.
It's like a funnel.
Yeah, it's like a funnel.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah, it's a funnel. So those are the two principal fails in boring for
It's a radial funnel. It's a radial.
Yeah.
it's a foul.
A foul.
Yeah,
It's a foul.
More of a column.
More of a column it is, but it's single threaded spaghetti up once.
So there's some of them going around like that, but what I'm going to end up with is this piece is bored, this piece is bored. The boards are offset, and you can see it on the ones that are floating around the room if you line them up. The holes in the ring don't quite, they match this way, but they're offset, so that it's going to pull it down like that.
Go towards the headstock so I can see what you
Yeah. So, can you see in there? I don't think you can. Remember, it's like this. So this hole here, this distance from here to here is greater than this distance here. So these magnets are further this way than these are. That's what causes it to pull down with a snap.
And that's because the magnets want to form a perfect column.
They do.
So that's why it's trying to pull the sub-center.
Yeah. So that's most of these things. Most of these things, people are working with the attractive force that draws it together. and not with the force, the other aspect of the force that wants to center it. I'm using both aspects of it, or trying to, imagining that I am anyway. Okay, well, I'll go back over here. Okay, that's the drill press. Use the indexing jig. Okay, we're going to do the demo of magnet management. I can turn this off again. You did that for me, didn't you? Okay. Magnet management. I'm going to install magnets. I'm only going to install in one part, I think. I'll install magnets in this. I'm going to use the lathe primarily as a holding fixture. First question is, these holes are blind, except for one that popped through. But these are blind holes. So how deep are they at the shoulder? I can set the vernier rod right down tight to the wall so it'll hit that shoulder. And I'm more than 3/16, but not by very much. So now I'm in a bit of a dilemma. Do I want to have the magnets close to the surface, which means I can't remove any wood from this? Or do I want to have a shorter magnet and that gives me some room to maneuver? And I'm going to go for the maneuvering room. So I'm going to select 3/16 by 1/8 inch magnets. And for the sake of the demo, I'm not going to get tangled up with too fancy with rights and lefts or norths and souths. I'm going to confirm that this is an 1/8 of an inch magnet. So all the magnets in this stack are north, south, north, south, north, south, north, south, north, south. They can't be any other way. Okay? So it doesn't matter. I don't care which is north and which is south. I just care that I can tell one. I can distinguish them. So I'm going to start with inserting a magnet in a hole. I'm not going to rotate the stack. Magnet in the next hole. Not going to rotate the stack. Magnet in the next hole, and magnet in the last hole. And those are all proud. I get 2 of them in there. See, sometimes now here's a real dilemma. You get a magnet in there. Did I get 2 magnets in that hole or only 1? The only way I can get it out of there is with the pliers. Only 1. And now I'm at risk. Is it the right way around? So I can easily find out, right? Don't rotate the stack. I'm good. Peel off 1 magnet. And I got a lot of little. Bamboo skewers. There's pieces of bamboo from my yard, but flattened off in the ends and to be about the size of the magnet. I'm going to seat that magnet right down as far as it'll go. I'm going to seat this one down as far as it'll go.
Did you not use glue because it's a demo?
I'm going to glue it in a minute.
Oh, okay.
Before I put the glue in, I got to position the magnets where I want them, because after I've got the glue in, I'm doomed. I can't do anything. I'm not moving any magnets once they're in there. I can't get these magnets out of this hole now. They're in. And they're where they're going to be. And that's, they're tight to the hole. They're all about the same depth. I got a 1/16 of an inch or so of wood that I could remove when in this one. This hole that went right through that magnet's a little extra deep. I'm going to see if I can just tap it out. No, it's out too far. That's always the case with these things. And I'm gonna tap it in a little. There, that looks. And I'm looking at the shadow, the sidewall, the height of the sidewall, the shadow line. Yeah. And I'm gonna do the same here, except here, I can push them in and out. I get more choices. So now this is the ring, and I wanna have matching magnets in here, right? So these are gonna stick this way. So these are gonna stick this way. I don't wanna rotate the stack. I can put this back in the chuck to do it, or I can just do it right here. These are also 1/8 magnets. I probably could have gotten away with 3/16 in this piece, but they were doing the demo. And if I don't really want to tap them down, the pliers with no serration in the jaws, I can push them in with that to a point. But I'm going to have to put this in the chuck to finish it, which I'm going to do. I can find the chuck key. Here. There's a box going around here in canary wood. That has them all in the way I want them. I'm going to pass it around as a demo blank. I can't find the lid to it. There it is. These are installed but not glued. I want them this tight. If they're looser than this, it's very hard to glue them. Now I'm in the flange ring here. Remember, this ring is going to fit in here. So I can have them, I can move them out. I should have done these. See, I put in 1/8 of an inch magnets on autopilot, but I've actually got more, almost 1/4 of an inch of wood. So these need to be 3/16 magnets. So I'm going to take them out, and but I'm not going to bother. I'm not going to waste your time with that. But what I'm going to do is push them out. I can get them out because it's a board, it's a through ring. I'm going to insert longer magnets, but rather than get hung up on that right now, I'm going to glue these. That was where I wanted to really go. I just wanted you to see with this, I can, because the ring, the holes are through, I can change them, I can switch them out. And I actually want a longer magnet than that if I'm going to have a nice box.
John,
Yeah.
couldn't you just put the ring on the box and tap the magnets till they're flush with the wood of the inner?
On my own lathe, I could. No, what you're suggesting, I don't think so.
You don't need a deeper magnet. You can just tap those in.
I want a
Ones on
deeper
the
magnet.
ring.
I want a deeper magnet. I want more mass there because I want the grab.
Okay.
Yeah. So I very often will wind up with 3/16 magnets over here and 1/8 magnets over here.
I see.
Yeah. And that's purely to get them to get more grab. Okay, so now I got them in there, and I'm going to super glue them in. This is a new bottle of super glue. I treated you all. And I need a piece of paper. Could you hand me that?
Expense that to Rick.
Yeah. Any piece of paper. It's going to be drippy. So I don't want drippy on the lathe. Oops. Afraid I got drippy on the lathe anyway. Actually, I came prepared for that. Okay. Now I'm just gonna draw, I just wanna drop in here. I cut that a bit big.
Is that
Fit
thin?
in there. This is thin. I'm gonna put thin in all of them. I want it to soak down beside the magnet and get into the pores of the wood. And I'm gonna wipe it off. I don't want any drools of it in there. I don't want a dam of glue. I just want the glue to get down beside the magnet and to soak in. And you can see I got all over the wood, but I got a 1/6 of a wood I can remove here, so I don't care about that. So I got them in there now. And I didn't bring any accelerator. I might give that a squirt, but I probably wouldn't. I'd probably just wait for a few minutes. And then I'm gonna fill them with, to get up to a surface. And I'm gonna do that with baking soda. This is ordinary baking soda from the food store. And because it's magnets, I have to work with plastic tools. So I want to put baking soda in there. And I want it to be pretty good tamped down. So I'm going to tamp it down. And then I'm going to put a little more in there. And then I'm going to put another drop of super glue. What I want that super glue is to saturate that baking soda. It happens that the chemistry is such that baking soda and super glue cure. It's cured hard right now. And that makes a pearly little filler in that hole. I'm probably, because I will very often find, okay, it's level. I want it a little higher. I want to make sure I've got some material there to plate off. So I'm going to build it up a little bit and put another drop of super glue on there. I'm going to do that all the way around.
Have you tried coloring the baking soda?
I have.
I was going through my mind.
What do you do
I was
to
trying to
color
think what you color it with.
To color the baking soda, I use trans tint dyes.
Yeah.
A couple of drops of trans tint in the baking soda in one of these cups. Stir it up as whatever happens to it, and then you can mash it up with the tool. You can get it back to be powder again. It turns out you don't need very much dye to get color. These are some experiments of color, of how colors behave.
What kind of dye are you using?
Trans tint.
Trans tint.
Yeah, the dye that Toby Bowder uses. I guess it's an aniline dye. Yeah. It's not a pigment dye. There's no residue from the dye, and it seems to work fine. Now, one thing I'm finding is with this super glue technique is there's some ongoing chemistry. After a while, a little moisture appears and a little dark ring appears in the wood around them, and I'm not sure quite what's going on there. Whether I've got a bad ratio of glue to baking soda, and I need to learn more chemistry of that, or exactly what it is. But I'm okay with it. I don't mind it. But it's one of the things that has recently occurred here.
John, did you ever use sanding dust instead of the baking soda?
Yeah, it doesn't look like anything.
Well, it'll be darker than the wood.
Also
Yeah.
works with cocaine if you've got lead line.
Yeah, there's probably a lot of things like that you could do, but I'm probably not going to. I actually like the pearly white better than anything else, and that's what I almost always do. And I'm just going to finish this up right quick and then go to the next stage. I believe that this material, this cementing material that it makes a really good hard bond, and I think that does as much as anything to lock the magnet in there. Remember now, as wood moves, the hole moves the same as it would if there was wood in it. So if the wood gets bigger with moisture added to it, the hole's going to get bigger too. We're talking infinitesimal, but infinitesimal with magnets pulling on each other they'll pull up. There's some boxes here, that little black one, which was surface magnets. The magnets have pulled right out of their holes. So this is part of this is an attempt, we don't want that. We want the magnets to stay tight here and to guarantee it. And so when I've done all that, it's going to look like this. I'm going to go back on the lathe then, once it's all dried. I'm going to clean it up, and I'm going to glue the flanged ring to the cap. I'm going to do that with baking soda, with a tight bond or epoxy, because they'll fill gaps. No matter how careful I've been and how I think I'm going on here, I am not going to end up with a perfect fit in there. But the fit that I really want is, I want between here, this is going to mate with the box body, there, and down inside there, that's the shoulder. You see that? Yeah, that's the mating shoulder. So the glue line is there. I can bury that in the valley of a ring, and the glue line is in there where nobody's going to ever see it. So that's what I'm after. Is that degree of invisibility. And so once I've got the magnet glued up, the magnet's glued in there, and I'm satisfied the glue's dried, I'm going to clean them off, and I'm going to get to this, which is my box blank, and I'm finally ready to turn the box. What time is it?
It's 18 of, 17 of.
I should quit so you can have show and tell.
I mean, how much longer do you think you would?
10 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah?
Yeah. Just finish.
Okay. So once I've got to here, I'm going to turn the box, and that's going to be the last demo. That is going to be the last demo. I'm usually going to turn the lid first. I've argued with myself about should I be turning the lid first or the box body first, and you know, I don't know. I've done it both ways, and it's really a matter of what you want to measure from what. I'm afraid I've cruded up the lathe with glue on the ways, which will interfere with the tool head. That's pretty much got it, so that can go there. Now my problem is I have to make sure I'm sticking like with like. This is this part. I can get myself bollocksed up here, so I've got an impossible situation. This is a pair. This belongs with that. These tools go over there. Get out of the way. You can see how I work in chaos most of the time. I'm going to be making a box very much like that one, rather than this one. So these two have the lid goes in, and then the box goes in an S curve, versus the lid follows just a single curve. So I'm going to start making the lid, and since I'm seeing that glue line there, I'm going to start working on that. And I know that bead is going to go in further on the wood, but I don't have to be concerned about that right now. With my gouge, I can very easily I got a full 1/4 inch to work with here.
Hey, Mike.
We'll loosen it first.
Yeah, thanks.
feet's gonna get quite a bit smaller probably before I'm done. I haven't had a chance to clean this up yet, so I'm gonna do that. I know I'm gonna go in deeper here, so I'm gonna do it now. This is a double end scraper. And I also know that my lid curve is going to begin, and this is where I need the other curve, the other handedness. This is a domed lid, so the shoulder here is going to be down from the dome. The dome is going to be bottom out right where the chuck bottoms out, so I'm going to remove some wood here. And I'm going to work looking at the silhouette to make sure I get this to be pretty good. And that's all I'm going to need to do right now. I've got a little way to go to get rid of that glue line. Oh yeah, I want to have, I'm going to clean up inside here. This is my chance. Can't cut the corners. That's fairly rough in there. I don't want that corner off. So first of all, I'm going to use this scraper here. And just take off that little corner. And this is not really running around, which tells you the difference between my lathe and this lathe, I guess. It is theoretically possible for me to get this part back on the lathe, but I'm not going to want to. So if I'm going to, and in the ordinary run of events, I would sand and finish this now inside. And if I had any doubt about the moisture content of the wood, after gluing in the magnets, where it's all messy like that, I'd leave that sit for several weeks. And then at this point here, I can get it back to be round. That feels pretty good in there. I don't think I have to do any additional. At home, I'd sand in there, but I'm not going to do that here. Okay, so that can come out. This is the box I'm meant to be doing this with. This isn't a match. That's the wrong body. This one. Get my labels off of here. So I can just turn them off. See how much I love you guys. You did all this careful prep. But I failed to make a printout of this, of the keynote. So in order to know where I am in the keynote, I wasn't planning on doing the share screen. We're going to do it a different way. That didn't work out so well. So. Okay, now I've got a lot of room here, but I know I want to make this S curve, so I'm just going to make it, and then we'll probably won't finish the fit. We'll just fiddle it a little bit and you'll see what goes on here. Because this is the quickest part of the box process after all. I know there's a shoulder there, a curve. I know I want to come down here with a pretty deep knee. Probably chipped the wood pretty bad there. And I usually go back on with my scrapers and clean this up with them. The dumbest thing you can do is what I just did there, though, which is you go waving around with your tool and you just nick the wood without even realizing it. That's the nick. There's the nick. So I'm going to have to cut that out. Uh-huh.
Good Lord telling you got the shape wrong.
Uh-huh.
I said, it's the good Lord telling you you had the shape wrong.
That's right. Exactly right. Well, I should probably go back in with the gouge to get rid of that. And I know I don't want this much chip. Okay, I can sand that. I'm ready to sand. It's not quite square in the little chuck. And now I can see what I have to do to trim this. Well, it's way big. I'd like it to be smaller. I can make it quite a bit smaller. I've got a ½ an inch to work with here. And I've got, I've probably got a 1/16 I can come in further here. So that's what I'm going to do next. I'm not going to do it now, but that's what I would do. I'll pare this down, finish off that bead, and then I'm ready, finally, to finish off the top and the bottom and remove the tenons. But I'm probably going to finish this before I even get there. Probably at home, once I'm looking at this, and I'm satisfied with it, and I've sanded it inside, which I can't do here, and I've gotten fully rid of that little ding, and this was a cracked blank. I'll probably put some little bit of glue in there, and I'll sand it to 280, 240, or 320, and finish it with Osmo right here before I go any further. And then after I pare off the tenons, I'll another whack of Osmo, and I can get a hold of it in the chuck. I can expand the chuck into here. If I'm worried about marring the wood, I'll wrap electrical tape around the chuck jaws. I can grab a hold of this flange here in this chuck so I can get it this foot, and in this case I'll wrap electrical tape around here. 2 wraps, 3 wraps. You don't want it to make a dimple over the side. It'll bugger up your alignment. You can't get it to sit straight. I usually lay a strip of tape out on the lathe ways, go at it with a steel ruler, cut it to the width I want with a sharp knife. So now I've got tape in there that exactly does the job. I'm gonna use electrical tape. I'm gonna use a color that goes with the wood. Electrical tape leaves a colored residue. If I go in here with red tape, you'll see red dots. But they make electrical tape in all the colors. So, and I have most of the colors at home. So this I would use brown or yellow electrical tape or orange. I wouldn't use green or red or black. So, because the chuck jaws will indent in the tape and it'll leave a mark. And then you what's that about? I don't think I'm done.
So if you, not like it's a race, but when you start to make a box, till the time you finish it in one long process?
No, I can't because I gotta have glue. Glue has to dry. So
Like, well, the
super
glue,
CA glue dries fast.
but not your other glue.
The glue between the cap and the flanged ring, that you'll think that's dry, but there's a lot of distance in there, and there might be a pad of glue in there too. Well, clamp it overnight.
Okay.
I just suck it up and do that. I do not intend to. So, and I usually make boxes 2 or 3 at a time. I mean, you'll see some of these blanks here, and there's 2 or 3 walnut ones here. I'm in a series of little walnut wood, so I can, and I can't work more than 2 or 3 hours at a time anyhow. So I work 2 or 3 hours, have lunch, work another hour. I might get 4 hours into the day, and in that 4 hours, I might finish a box, even 2. But I wouldn't have started that box that morning. It would have been yesterday's box. So you see how it goes?
So almost a couple boxes a day, even if it's not the same box you started.
Yeah, getting to the glue up, getting to where you can install magnets is about an hour to an hour and a quarter, hour and a half, depending on how much fiddling around you do. I think I can do that in about 45 minutes, and that's what I'm heading for. And then the gluing of the magnets and finishing of the box is probably another that amount of time, all in all. So it's probably a 2 to 3 hour proposition to make these boxes. And the reason I brought this slide up here is I wanted to go to yeah. Dick Tracy had it right. 85.
John, have you ever done, I'm sure you have, made your flange out of different wood than the box itself?
Yeah, that's this one here is an example of that. But I don't like it, so I don't do it. But this one's fairly successful. This one doesn't actually have a flange, but it's got inlay, and an inlay and a ring. Where am I? Oh, I'm sorry, I need to be over here. It's got inlay, and a ring on a pear wood body. So, yeah, that's what you're talking about. And I could, the flange ring could be another wood, and I have made them. I just don't happen to have one here because I don't like them. But that would be a decorative effect. You could do Paduke against cherry. It would look pretty good.
It would also keep your grain alignment better too, because you're not taking another 1/2 inch or 3/4 out of the wood.
That's true. But then the woods would move differently together, and I could have a wood movement problem. Probably
okay.
not. These things are small enough, so you don't really, once you get them to a basic dry, you don't really have a wood movement problem.
Is there any other thing that you think, is there gonna be a next generation, do you think?
I thought I was finished back there.
So the answer probably.
I mean, you keep saying, it's a rabbit hole. Yeah, it's a rabbit hole.
It is.
I decided a couple of years ago, I make a lot of different things, I turn a lot. You guys who know me know that. But I decided a couple of years ago I was going to get this figured out.
I think you might.
And get somewhere at least close to the bottom of the rabbit hole, yeah. And if there's one thing I leave you with that I don't ever see anybody else doing, is everybody says, oh, I can't draw, I just want to turn. Okay, so turn. Saw the thing in half and draw around it. Now you can draw. You don't have to draw to draw.
Right.
If you can turn.
Well, thanks for sharing your rabbit hole with us.
Okay. Thanks very much. It was fun.
Right.
I'm sorry it's kind of choppy, but it was kind of choppy, so there we go.
Well, it's a detailed thing.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on.
Lots going
Thank
on.
you.
Okay.
Well, it's about 9 o'clock. There's some show and tell stuff here. You folks want to go through that? Yeah. Okay. Well, whoever wants to go first, please have at it.
Yeah, I'm not going to try and put anything in this way. We'll clean that up.
on Saturday.
Some of them.
Just have to stand on that side.
Okay, can you see that? Along with the, during the symposium with the Mid-Atlantic Woodturners, I was honored to have the prize as Best in Show for the instant gallery, and this is what it is. Thank you. Well, what happened is that this is very difficult to display, and it's a very non-assuming piece, but if you take it off, and of course, you can have a second piece, ball under there, and another one.
Jeez, Doug.
And another one. Sorry.
You got 8 in all?
Pardon?
You made 8?
Well, yeah, it's 8 total. So, that one, that's, and it was displayed like this on the show table, and I saw some people coming around at the show itself, and they were sort of talking, and the judges were there and everything like that. So there's this lady walked up to the table, and I said, she said, what's this? And I put it back together for her. She said, wow, that is so cool. It turns out she was one of the judges. So I was a bit of a ringer. I didn't intend that because there's a lot. Guys, there was a lot of really, really good stuff there. I was really impressed. So I decided to take it a little bit further this week.
Nano turning.
And so now I have this. Can you see that? I mean, you can't.
Oh, it's too small, Doug.
Sorry.
Make it bigger.
Put in a cup of water on it.
How many are inside of that?
Yeah.
Well, as a matter of fact, funny you should ask.
Oh, no.
No way. Doug, what tools did you use for that?
So that ball is about a 1/4 inch diameter.
Maybe we do it on the overhead.
So how many you got? 8, 9, 10?
Well, yeah, there's now 9. I'm going to try. I wanted to replace this ball with a series of inside. And I think I can get 5 inside of that one, just the way it's working at the moment. But if you start from the inside and go out, that's what happens.
That just happens.
And by the way, that's the bottom of the rabbit hole for me. So, thank you.
Great stuff, Doug.
Thanks. They're all, by the way, it's all a 1/16 of an inch is the wall thickness, just under a 1/16 of an inch, and I'm trying to make them. The diameters differences on these little ones is about a little bit less than a 32nd inch gap between the two balls. So going down there. So I'm really one of the things, John, I want to take a look at your tools, because I need to get many tools like that John's taken to get precision. The biggest problem for me is that this connection, this little set in here, I don't know, you can't see it, but I can put it.
I have some tool steel you can grind to pretty much anything you want.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking about.
Yeah.
So I just want to make miniature versions of what you got there.
Sure.
So yeah.
How are you going to insert magnets in?
Well, I could if you wanted to. John's got me thinking about magnets because I'm a metallurgical engineer, and it's like all these, those, just because they're round, to me it's like, okay, what if I had a strip magnet this narrow and different, whatever. Then you can make a whole strip around the outside. You get 3 strips of opposite things and bend it around. You'd be amazed at what you can get. Anyway.
No, you're doing that on your Powermatic.
Yeah. What do you need a smaller lathe for? My comment about the Powermatic is that, you know, I can go tiny on a Powermatic. I just can't go big on a small lathe.
Mini, yeah. That's amazing, man. Good for you. That's great.
Thank you. Oh, we're pushed for time, so I'll just set that aside and thank you, everybody.
So we go from the little tiny.
Yeah.
wee thing.
Opposite end of the spectrum.
Jet lathe, right?
That's right. That's what,
You get the little lathe.
Yeah, that's
Did it on my drill press.
Yeah. Your drill press.
Your drill press, yeah. With a file.
So that's a platter I made. It started out as a 27-inch wide piece of mahogany that was only about an inch thick. If I do it again, I'm not going to turn wood that's that thin.
How did you, I mean, did your jaws grip that tiny?
Yes, the jaws gripped in this recess on the back.
So that you expanded.
Yep, I expanded into that. And that's about a little over 16th inch deep, maybe?
Wow.
A little under an eighth.
What
And it held
speeds
fine.
did you turn this at?
I maxed out around 500 RPM or so.
The circular saw.
And then
Can't grind up a Allen key or something.
So talk about the design.
the design pattern on the outside, I used my router jig on a swing arm in the banjo, and there's 53 arcs going around. I made an indexing jig using a bicycle chain ring and a chain wrench. So that's mounted on the back of the hand wheel side. So 53 is interesting because it's a prime number, so you can't actually divide that out easily with a protractor.
Easily.
How did you come up with 53?
53 was the number of teeth on the chain ring for the bicycle. So it was our pre-machined.
How did they come up with 53?
No idea. I don't bicycle.
I would have liked. Where did you get the wood? I mean, it's a
I came from
stunning
Groff
piece
and
of
Hoff.
wood.
Groff and Groff had a piece, yeah, just lying in the rack. It was only 1 inch thick. That was the downside. So how I started was I glued a waste block on the face and used a faceplate for it.
So you could make the back.
So I could make the back and then turned it with the recess expansion.
Wow.
And did you press your hand against this to keep it from waving around, or what did you do?
I used my hand, and I also made a little jig with a skateboard wheel.
Okay.
So that I had it actually spring loaded so that it would match the curve, but then it started to pulse. It actually was pounding the wood more, so that wasn't good. So
So it was almost like a steady rest.
yeah, steady
In
rest.
the other direction.
Yep, on the back side.
Right. That's cool.
And finished with shellac.
Wow.
Thanks.
You win the Sheldon Bing Bang theory of physics to, make it happen. So, way to go, man. That looks great.
Thank you.
Really good.
All right, I'm Mike. I brought 2 pieces. This is a lidded bowl with handles. It's turned out of, this is one piece. The lid was a separate piece. But this is actually, it's first turned like this. You turn a sphere and leave the knobs on. Then you rotate it and turn the knobs like this and finish the bottom and hollow out the inside. I did this at Mike Kay's as a demo, just because I had to have something to do for a demo, so it's like, all right, we'll do that. Then I have this piece. It's a piece of holly. It has a design on the top. I saw this design on YouTube. A guy was drawing it on a piece of paper, and I said, that would be really nice on a turning. And the best way to do this design is you put it under the laser and you push start. But I don't have a laser, so I had to do it all by hand. And while it looks really impressive, it's not that complicated. It's 50 overlapping circles. So you draw a line about halfway around, use the indexing on my lathe and make 50 marks, and then just a compass and draw 50 circles. Then I used a wood burning pen to burn the design, and I manipulated the pen to try and make each little petal, I call them, different, because I didn't want it to look laser cut on a machine. And then it kind of grew, and I thought, I ought to color it, and then maybe I ought to cut the edge down. That would be good. And the triangle in the center is part of the design. Oh, sorry. And this actually turned out to be the most complicated part of the whole turning, because this is a twisted multi-axis turning. It's 3 sides, and it comes up in a twist. And that's not as easy as it sounds, because normally you would do it between centers, but since the center point of their pressure on the lathe is not in line with the wood, they kept breaking. I had to come up with an angled screw chuck to finally work it out. Took a lot of tries. I have a whole pile of broken ones. It's like a box of broken dreams. So then on the inside, I put a little design on the inside just to tie it all together. Oh, and it rocks because all my bowls rock.
How do you get the serrated edge around the outside of the top?
Around here?
Yeah.
That's carved. That's what I chisel in a mallet. So,
That's beautiful.
thank you.
So I made this piece, which is going to be a lamp, and I don't know if you can see it on that. And it's pierced on both sides, and then it's going to sit on. I haven't figured out this part of the lamp yet, but I know that you guys always clap when shit gets lit up, so I'm gonna light some shit up. And I didn't want the tenon to show because I'm still working on figuring out what I want to do. I think this is going to have 2 bases. I made this base, this what I'm calling the base. This I'm calling a plinth, just so everyone's clear. It's not part of the piece, but I didn't wanted your eye to visually break.
What do you mean it's not part of the piece?
It's not part of the piece. I created it today just so that the tenon wouldn't show.
Okay.
It's a tenon disguiser.
I thought it looked pretty good, but it was part of the
Except,
piece.
so I have a design for the base that will be a sort of like this, but a more angular cone, and it'll be cut on the bias, and then the axis of so where the bias is will be the 90-degree axis of a channel. So that if you turn the top piece 180 degrees, the piece will go from being a lamp to being presented as a sculpture by just turning it 180 degrees. But there's a channel involved and a stop, so you don't, because it's a lamp, so you can't just keep twisting the cord, right? So it was way too complex in the time I have left, which is between now and the 15th. I have to finish the piece and take photos of it and apply to the Works on Wood show. So I was like, what's the quickest way to, between 2 points is a straight line, although in this case it's a curved line. But so that's the model for the shape and the size, so you get the proportions. I haven't decided what wood I'm going to use. I'm thinking I might make the base black because nothing goes with cherry. Like there's just absolutely no wood that looks good with cherry except for cherry.
Walnut. Good with cherry.
Not in my mind. So, and I don't want the base to detract from the shade, if you will, or the sculptural part of the piece, because that's where all the work and the detail and the creativity is, and the base is just a thing to set it on. But I had this piece of spalted maple lying around, and it's pretty nice, and I thought, oh well, for tonight I'll just throw it together. I'll probably make something just like this and then either gild it, do the whole thing in gilding, or do the whole thing in black, just so that, because I really do want, this is the one that took all the work. This took me an hour. This took me 100 hours, something. So I want the, I want the main piece to shine.
How do you get those openings so smooth? The carving,
You mean the design circular, or do you mean the smoothness of the carving? So there's 2 questions.
Well,
okay, so I'll answer them both, right? smoke wood. So to lay out these lines, I started with cutting circular shapes, ring shapes, on it's not silicone, but stickers. The stickers that are plasticky, that peel away and the residue doesn't. Vinyl, thank you, that's the word I'm looking for. I'm not good with my chemicals. But
Sure.
Synthetic chemicals. I'm not good. That doesn't work either. All right. So that worked here and here, but I wanted this idea of the circles to go over the edge. Well, anyone who knows geometry will know that if you lay a circle on over here and you fold it over here, it doesn't go over the edge. The curve on this piece and the curve on this piece doesn't work. So then I had to create another set of finishes that are a slightly different radius that I could lay on and would make it look like continuous. So then I lay those on there, okay? And that becomes like if I were to draw on the surface. And then I pierce the whole piece, but I don't pierce it all at once. I trace on the inside of the stick because I wanted the thickness of the 1/4 inch. So I use the piercing tool with a flame tip knife to just cut into the surface to create the trace. Then I peel off all the vinyl stickers, okay? In this case, I used white and red vinyl because I needed to remember not to cut through those pieces or else I would have a giant pile of circles, which would be cool, but wouldn't work as a lampshade, right? So in order to keep them connected, I had to draw these connectors and leave them in there. How I get it really smooth, the inside cut and the corners that's the part that probably takes, this was all, you've seen my other work, it's very thin, right? 1/16 of an inch, it's easy to pierce, 2 passes done. This is some of it's thicker than 1/8 of an inch, if you really look. Some of it's 1/4 of an inch. Down here it's 1/4 of an inch because I didn't want the base to break, right? But here it's 1/8 of an inch, so piercing that takes many passes. So I wouldn't recommend it, but I also didn't want these connectors to be thick because you'd ruin the effect of the circle. So I needed depth in the piece for stability so it wouldn't just crush. So that's that. Then I use another bit on my piercer, which is like your finger. It's a parallel bit. And I run it at really slow speed. Because so first of all, in order to make it pierce easier, I coat everything with beeswax melted with mineral oil, so it becomes like you might use it as a paste wax, or like Matt's what he was putting the diatomaceous earth in to create an abrasive polish, right? It's essentially that, right? A wet sanding comp, whatever you want to call it. But I put it on the whole surface of the piece, the inside and the outside, and then I throw it in the microwave for 15 seconds at a time. As the wax melts, the wax and the mineral spirits are absorbed into the wood, so that it creates viscosity when I'm burning through it. You can actually see the wax bubbling up. So it creates it's easier to cut. The problem with that is that all the spaces in between all these cracks are completely covered in melted creosote burned wood, essentially. So then I go in with a bit that's parallel and long at a really low speed. So I'm piercing this at 40 pounds of pressure, which is about 400,000 RPMs. I dial that back to about 7 pounds, which is, I'm assuming, somewhere around 70 or 7,000 or something. Really slow. And I essentially just, once you do it a lot, you get a sense, and I used to be a painter, so painters feather on and feather off. So I'm essentially going in there and just feathering on, feathering off, and sanding away all that blackness. Then I go in with these German wood carvers files. They're hand-cut teeth, they're super sharp, and they're very fine. And I make all the corners of the stops perfectly square, which is the part that takes forever, and the part that I just learned because I took this to Mike on Art Day the other day, and I said, Mike, look at the top and then flip it over and look at the bottom and tell me what the difference is. And he was like, I don't know, some of these lines are thicker. And I had done the corners on the top to perfect, 90 degree or very sharp angles if it's not a 90 degree curve. and the bottom was still rounded, and it made me crazy. But then I realized, well, you just spent 100 hours with 3 times magnification glasses flopped in front of your face. You're going to see that. Nobody else is going to see it. I was like, damn, I could get those hours back. But it's like when you paint. If you've ever been a painter or a professional painter, and you go into a house that was painted by the homeowner, and you go like, this is just ugly, and your wife will go, what are you talking about? And you go, well, do you see up, way up in that corner, there's a little bit of a schwutz there because they don't know how to cut, right? So they don't cut a straight line. So for me, there's some anal part of needing all the corners to be really sharp and square and offset against the curves. And so I flipped it over and I did the bottom to be that way. A lot of filing too far, and then you have to turn the file the other way and file off the,
Well,
so.
that's what I noticed, you have perfectly square corners.
Yeah, it's a lot of patience, but it's sort of like, you have magnets and you have your balls that you're playing with, and I play with.
I like to use the term spheres.
Okay. All right. I play with corners.
Is that what you call them?
Yeah. I just like things. I know that this piece will look better, even if you don't know why.
Right.
I know that it'll look better if everything's tight
Oh, yeah.
and straight, and whatever the degree of angle is, because there's some angles that aren't 90 degrees. They're well more than that, but it's still sharp. It's sharp in the corner. If that was rounded, it would not be clean. It wouldn't look clean. So I get, and it's actually a good lesson. Put some 3 times magnifiers on your head and look at your work, and then go, oh, maybe I do need to sand a little bit more, or maybe I do need to, have a little bit better line, or maybe I.
Maybe I need to throw up my 3 times magnifier.
Yeah, right. Maybe I do need to. Yeah, because I can't see at the level of like I can see this, but it's all blurry. I wouldn't be able to see anything. So I have to put on the magnifying glass to be able to do the detail. If it was way over there, I could see it from 100 yards, which many people can't do. But I can't see those corners at all. So it's just.
Hey, Thomas, to back up a little bit,
Yeah.
help me understand this. Did that start as 2 bowls put together? Or
Yeah, it started as 2 very thinned bowls where I wussed out a little bit on the bottom of this bowl. It got a little thick, but this was the last bowl standing, and I was, a couple hours into it, and I was like, oh, I'm not going through the bottom of that. So I pulled it off early because I knew that this was going to be where the hole was. So even if it was thick, there wouldn't be that much work. And then I perfectly flattened the edges, and then I glued the pieces together, and then I started just, laying it out and cutting them. So.
Flatten the edges on a plate or on the lathe?
I flattened them on the lathe. And this was this is dry. This has been sitting at Dave Souza's house probably for 3 years or 4 years or something, and they were 1.25 inches, 1.5 inches thick when I got them. I was going to display this way and not make it into a lamp, just make it into a sculpture, and it was going to have that kind of a stand, But I didn't have a template when I was turning these, and they're not at all the same shape. And when I put them together, I was like, oh, that's going to be the ugliest thing ever. So you've oriented this way, nobody cares about the fact that they're different shapes. So.
Plus it has a light.
It has this light, but it's going to have an even better light. And so I've been playing around with LEDs, and when you put an LED in here, you turn off the lights, like the pattern is just completely crisp and all over the ceiling, and it just looks really trippy. So I love it. Yeah.
Hey. Which way you going?
I'm going here.
Okay.
My bag.
Hey. So this isn't done on the lathe, but this is Friday. My father passed away, and my mother wanted an urn for his ashes. And Friday afternoon, when we were at the funeral home, she's like, "You can make one, right?"
Just like that.
Yes. So it's cherry. The sides are a curly cherry, but everything's hand burned. No laser, just me. So he was 85, pretty awesome dude, I thought. So, so I showed my mom that part that I did, but didn't tell her about doing the sides until after I did the sides, just so that she could have that part that she knew about and approved. The rest of it I did on my own. So along the sides are pieces of my father. So my father was an avid trapper from the time he was a little man. I say little man, like 7, 8, and up until last season. Wrote a couple books on trapping that are still being sold and that kind of stuff. But
hand burn the stuff, that little stuff on the side?
Yeah, that's all hand burn. So it was a lot of fun, and I learned more about my burn unit.
I mean, really incredible.
So he started his career as a welder, and then of course, you know, his animals that he loved and pets and such. And then also the company that he started, which is the one that I'm running now, 36 years ago. So the logo and the little mouses, those are no longer part of our logo, but it was way back, and he had designed that, so that went on here for him. So, but yeah. So just have to finish it.
I have one last thing. Just there's a box of stuff. Jim Bowman, one of the people at our church, his father was a pen maker and passed away a while ago. And so Jim came over and he gave us a bunch of pen blanks and pen stuff. And Jim wanted to make sure it got shared with the club here for people to use. So I made a bunch of pens just as a thank you for the gifts and stuff like that. There's a box of stuff that's over there. Help yourself. If there's a whole bunch of mechanical parts to pens, but they're all like half pen parts. So if any of you guys are pen makers that want spare parts, great. If you're not a pen maker, it's confusing as all get out to what is in this box. So if any of you are pen makers, let me know and I'll bring the box in so you can have at it. But trust me, I looked through it about 5 times, and I'm still trying to figure out which pen goes to where. And some of these are old designs that are 20 years old, and they don't make them anymore that way. So, and then there's no instructions for how to put them together. So it's a bit of a puzzle that way. Anyway, I just wanted to pass along. So I just made the pens and saying thank you, and it's going on to the next person, his family. So.
Anybody else have anything?
I'm just gonna say that I'm gonna come on Saturday to open shop, and I'm gonna leave all my junk here. So if anybody wants to come and play around with boxes or turn boxes, and I'll do some more turning and like that.
But it's okay that we'll move this blade back there and bring the Powermatic up.
Can you leave it all right there on Saturday?
We can. Yeah. Okay. So we'll just
everything right there.
We'll just leave it right here.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks again, John, and thanks everybody else. And that's the evening.
Very good. Very good.
It's some outstanding work. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.